Okay, welcome to the user story mapping workshop. My name is Nermina Durmic. I already presented the idea of the workshop. I'll just try to run quickly through these initial slides. A bit more introduction about myself. Bigger part of my business day, I work as a product owner. Therefore, I'm doing this kind of a workshop. I'm doing the Agile coaching as well when necessary, although being a product owner is the primary thing I like to do. I'm also an assistant professor in IT department at International Birch University in Bosnia, in my country. And here in these links, actually, you can find out more about my experience. Big thanks to sponsors. And let's start. Actually, before we start with the exercise, I would need you to sit in groups of 3 to 5 people. So we have 4 people here. We need 1 more person sitting this table. From that table, okay. Yeah, 1 can move to that table, if that's okay, because there are 4 people. We can have 5 there. And this one is good. So we're good. Another thing I would like to ask you is to clean up your tables a bit, because we will need the area for the exercise. If there are bottles that you don't need, just put them away on those tables on sides of the room. But we can also maybe use the walls for.
No, it's not sticking.
It's not sticking. Okay, then let's clean up the tables. Oh, great, thank you. Okay, while you're cleaning up the tables, I'll just give introduction of the user story mapping as a workshop. So what are the goals? You heard this morning a lot about the product backlogs, release plannings. Probably in your companies you have roadmaps. So we have 5 levels of Agile planning that we keep mentioning in Agile. Top is the vision, then the roadmap, then the release. Planning, sprint planning, and daily plan is something that we will not be dealing with today. But it's a big challenge to do these 3 top levels of planning the right way. I think we're all aware of it. Like Ari said this morning, we all need to have product backlogs, but they don't grow on trees. We need to put some effort in it, to invest some energy, a lot of energy. Actually, user story mapping is a good technique to do so. And this is not just the exercise that we do in conferences. This is something that you can do in your companies with your project teams as much as you need it, as you feel you need it. So the goal is first to start from when we, for example, during the execution, during the development, we are planning, if you're doing the software development, the Agile, where, for example, Scrum, we have these sprint plannings, for example, and we are planning 1 to 4 weeks, etc. But still, is it necessary to have an overview, the big picture of the product? Yes, it is. And this is what gives us an option to see that. Another advantage of practicing the user story mapping technique is that it's a way to involve whole team. So not just the product owner, but the whole development team into the definition of what we should build. Why is it important? Because nobody wants developers, usually if they're passionate about what they're doing, they want to be part of something that is useful. And if you're part of the definition of something you're building, you care about it more, and it makes more sense, right? Any questions before we start with the real exercise? Yeah.
Are we going to have the slides?
Yeah, I think the organization will post it. Yeah. So in this presentation, you have exact steps what to do, and I think it will be useful. Okay, we will start with what? What are we building? How should we organize the development steps? And when should each release actually happen? Okay, as a step 1. So you are in teams. Now we have a lot of teams, a lot of people at that table, but it's okay. We'll make it work. Okay, so as a first step, let's, as a team, spend 2 minutes talking about which product are you building today. So in general, today startups are very popular, but every company, every big company was a startup at some point, so it's nothing new, it's just a new fancy word for something that we already had in past. But when building a startup, when building a new product, when building a new piece of the existing product, it's always have in mind this. Which problem is it solving? Let's not build something that we already have. So let's spend 2 minutes discussing, agreeing as a team, what are we building today? Just be, for example, if you can't think of anything new because you have just 2 minutes, you can use some of the existing products like Booking.com or Facebook, or like if you were building it from scratch, or some app that will help you organize your trips when traveling better. Okay? So the colleague is saying that you already in the previous workshop came up with ideas for new product. You can use the same, but there are some new people that we'll give option to. If anyone has questions, I'm here. You already have some stickers, right? Stickers you will need.
Mobile payment.
These are the stickers you will need. Do we have the idea of the product, each group? Do you need more time? Okay. Can I get your attention? Okay. It's good that we're many people, but I'll be Agile now. And since we're mainly groups of more than 5 people, we'll need a Scrum Master in every group so that the Scrum Master can lead the process in case discussion go in some other direction. Okay. Anyone? Just decide who's going to be the Scrum Master. You're a Scrum Master of your team. You're a Scrum Master of your team. You're the Scrum Master of your team. Cheese. Woman is always the best Scrum Master. Can you be the Scrum Master of your team?
Yes.
Okay, great. Great. Okay. Great. Perfect. Okay. So we have the products. Actually, the idea of the product, we have the vision, and when working with your teams, make sure before you start doing anything, developing the product, thinking, discussing about development steps, make sure everyone is on the same page about what the product goal is. As long as everyone is not on the same page, we'll have problems eventually, okay? So that's your homework of either product owners or Scrum Masters. Step 2, now, this is the most crucial step of the whole workshop, of the whole exercise. Why? Because it's very easy to make mistake here. The step 2 is actually to define the basic user flow. User story map is created of the walking skeleton, the backbone, and the belonging features. This is the last step. So in the next step, we're building the walking skeleton. What's the walking skeleton? Something very basic that everything else stands on, right? So this step means let's create the basic, very basic user flow of how our product should work. So that means like the basic tasks user can do using our product. No, that's a good point. So this is not the MVP. This is something like, in academia, we would explain it like a proof of concept, or something, basic features that, this is like 5% of the MVP. MVP comes after this one, just to technically prove that we can build this product, and it makes sense. I'll give you an example. We all know how Facebook works, right? And the basic flow would be, I need ability to create accounts, so that's something that product can't live without. I can create accounts, log in and log out, add profile details of my own profile, upload the profile photo, I need that, right? That's the purpose of Facebook. I can upload some other photos, create text posts. Today we can create photo posts, videos. No, we will just create text posts, the basic one, the most simple one. I can view someone else's profile. I can add that person as a friend, and I can scroll down the news feed. As you can notice that here I'm not adding the delete, block, friend request, etc., because that's all the advanced version. So I'm just focusing on the basic. So imagine like you want to build something, yeah, we're building something new. And think what's the starting point? Okay. So this is a starting point. It's probably creation of the account in the Facebook case. And this was the final point in whichever way we're using the product. So what is the shortest way to get from here to here without making it complex? Just the basic steps. Why is it difficult to come up with the basic steps? Because it's human nature to think to throw just as too many ideas. But it's a very big challenge that everyone actually is facing with every day, especially when building new products, to be very precise into adding what's necessary, only what's necessary. Let's consider booking.com. I can, as a basic flow, I can add hotel description pictures, right? Because without that feature, booking.com doesn't make sense. I can type in destination and travel dates. So today we can also type in the hotel name, we can type in some attractions, etc. No, we're focusing only on the destination, nothing else. Then we need to build a matching algorithm. We will display results, hotel details page, availability, book a hotel without any complication, and process the payment. So this is even a bit complex, let's say, because booking.com needs to have this long flow. But I hope that you get the point. So these are the basic tasks user can do using the product in chronological order. So later we will be placing this. So it's going to be one task per one sticky note, and I already delivered some sticky notes that you can use. And this step is being performed silently as individual, not as a team. What's the purpose? Because when we're working as a team, we come up actually, we hear friends' idea and we adopt it. When working as an individual, we share our own ideas and we collect more ideas that way later when working as a team. Okay, so let's do this step. You have your products and think about very, very basic flow of what users should be able to do using this product. It should be 4 or 5 sticky notes, let's say. Are there any questions?
Do you want us to start this process individually or?
Individually. It's the silent brainstorming. So silently for yourself, you're just writing one task. A user can, let's say 5 minutes, just from the top of your head. Don't think too much, just the basic flow. Yeah, one task, or you can call it feature on one sticky note. Important thing to add here is that when you are doing this exercise with your teams, make sure that you have as many different roles as possible. So invite stakeholders, scrum masters, product owner, you're already product owner, let's say, development team members, anyone who is in any way involved in the product development, anyone who has interest in developing the product being developed, actually. Anyone who will eventually be able to provide you with feedback, whether we're on right track, on good track with building the product, etc. Why is that important? Again, to gather as many different ideas as possible at the very beginning. Okay, are we all done with the basic flows? Okay, so we did the silent brainstorming. The next step is each team member in your group reads their tasks, so the sticky notes, out loud to other colleagues. The goal is, now you'll need to clean up your tables a bit more. You will do 2 things. First one is we will remove duplicates. In case the 2 members have the same sticky note, we will remove the duplicate. And the second task is to make the walking skeleton. So in the horizontal line, place these sticky notes from the starting point till the exit point of your app. So let's create the basic flow.
I'm assuming you enable the distance finder.
The next step, I have to say that all groups did a great job because this is really the most complex one. To remove the complexity, it's a big challenge. Now, the next step is if you're managing the product backlog or if you have a product owner in your team managing a product backlog, you must have heard about terms like epics and user stories, for example. What are the epics? High-level user stories, a roof for a family of user stories, right? So we'll do something like defining the epics in our walking skeleton now. The next actually step is to create the backbone of our walking skeleton. What we will do, we will group still in the horizontal line. So the goal is to get this. In the horizontal line, you will group tasks that look similar, like upload photo, a profile photo, and add profile details. So it's about the same thing, so it can be an epic profile, let's say. So just group them. How do we group them? Just leave some space between groups horizontally. You can make 2 or 3 or 4 groups, 2 minimum, yeah.
Check, then select, that's the same thing, same epic story.
Check.
And then watch and replay. Or even
So you get the
yeah,
point.
yeah.
Rearrange them.
You get some points.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. You get some.
So in reality, this exercise takes like 30 minutes in total. But when you have experienced people doing it, when you have people who don't have much experience, then it can take hour and a half, 2 hours, etc. But you're. It's good.
Now you see, we have the login.
You have login and log.
It's the same one. We just.
I would put it under the same roof.
So move this there.
Yeah, because it's once you build login, you will build logout as well, right?
So it's not about the flow. It's about the.
It is about the flow, but logout is the only one that doesn't need. You can keep it here as well, but just to reduce the complexity, I would move it there. But it is about the flow. I'll need you now to clean up this part because we will now add vertically user stories.
Maybe we can
Or move this up.
move this.
These stickers, and this is something that will keep your map organized. So that's the only goal. This is like the most simple step.
Simple, but we are not trying to add more stories.
No. Just to give it a surname to a family. Master in the group 1, don't make impediments for your team. Okay. So what's the purpose? There was a question, what's the purpose of having these areas here? So we call these activities, like modules. I like calling them modules of the product, to keep the story map organized, to keep your product backlog organized. So here we're not adding the complexity, we're just giving a surname to a family, let's say, of tasks. Because in the next step we will see there will be a lot of movements of the tasks beneath, okay? Next step. Now, something that we're all good at, and something that a step where we can add as much complexity as we want. Now, vertically, under each task, so under each task in the walking skeleton, you add features, new features that increase the sophistication of this, of the task. For example, in the example of Facebook, we had add a friend as a task. Below that one, we will add remove a friend, delete friend request, block user, ignore user. I don't know which other features exist in Facebook. Okay, but you get the point, I believe. So anything, all other, if you were working in product, in teams as a product owner, we would call these user stories, for example. But they can be broken down, etc. That's why I don't like calling them user stories in this phase. I will just call them features that increase sophistication of the product. Okay.
We have a specialist guy for that.
Okay. Suggestion is that you go from the first task in the walking skeleton and see how sophisticated it can get. Scrum Masters, plan 15 minutes for this exercise. 10 minutes for this step. In this phase, one more thing. In this phase, don't worry about the order of the user stories in the vertical line. Just as many as you think is necessary. So, like I said, if you have add friend, you will add all other options that make this new features. Okay, correct the mistake.
This is the first thing then. For the session part, we have to...
For example, if you have the registration, you will add registration via Gmail, registration via Facebook, registration via Instagram, etc. So these are all separate features, but in the same group, right? Okay. Something very useful to add here, when adding these user stories, just 10 seconds to add something very important that can help you. You can use concept of personas. So think about, for example, this is a dancing app or something, and there is a girl called Farah. She is primary persona, and you think about which feature she needs. Then there is another role, Emina, her mom, for example, and she probably wants to control what his daughter is doing in the app. So you will add also features she needs, the other role. So that's the concept of personas you can use to actually add user stories features from different perspectives. Okay, I think that all groups have enough of user stories, actually enough of features, and we can continue with the next step. Okay, so all of you, you have this format of the story map on your table. Okay, let's move on. The prioritization, the next step, because not everything is of the same importance for the product. How do we do prioritization? There are many techniques. The most popular one, and most, from my experience at least, the most useful one, is that we choose 2 or 3. For this exercise, we will choose 2 dimensions to prioritize these features that the user story is against. For example, business value, user impact, risk of or danger of not adding the feature for the product. This is the one I like a lot. Dependencies, for example, technical ones. Something is very complex to develop, and if possible, we like to push it to the bottom of the backlog. Knowledge that we have or don't have. Uncertainty about the, maybe we're not that it's not that clear what the feature should do. It should go to the bottom, etc. So for both dimensions, we grade each as a team. We grade each user story, each feature, with points 1 to 5, where 5 is the highest. Okay, so now as a team, choose 2 dimensions. I would suggest business value and maybe risk of not adding the feature or user impact. Choose 2 between these first 3. Huh? Really far. Okay, then business value and user impact. User impact means like whether users will like it or whether the feature will make users come back to the app. Okay, so the step is, again, the next step is choose 2 dimensions, business value and user impact. Then give points from, from 1 to 5 for the business value to each of these tickets that you have. We do not add points to these big epics because they're there only for the organization. What I do expect to happen is that the walking skeleton gets all 25s, 5 times 5, which will not be case with your example because you have too many stories, too many tasks. Yes. But if the walking skeleton is good, everything that is in the walking skeleton is the most important, right? And then, yeah, do the same for the user impact. Then the product of these two values is the priority. Okay, so you don't need to rearrange anything, just add points and multiply. Okay, let's do this step now. Questions? Okay, we need to move on with the workshop. So if you have stories that are not prioritized, just add some numbers so that you can complete the exercise, but you get actually the point what needs to happen. Okay, the next step is, to reorder user stories tickets in vertical lines without mixing them. Just reorder them so that the highest values go to the top. Okay? So you have 25 at the top and 1 at the bottom. Do that for every vertical line. So do all teams have something similar to what's in the slide? Highest at the top, lowest at the bottom. Okay.
4 into 3 is 12.
Let's continue. Okay. The next step is, now we want to divide the story map with respect to priorities into 4 releases, let's say. If this was a startup, if we were building a product from scratch, which in most of the cases we do, then the first line would be must have. We would apply the Moscow technique, which means we will have in our story plan, in our story map, stories that are must have. We must add them to the product. Then the second release, something that is must have, is usually the MVP. The second release would be the should have, could have, and the final one with the lowest priorities is something that we'll just reject. We won't have it. If you want to keep it, that's fine. This is just one of the ways how you can actually organize this story map. Now, what I want you to do is we will use this tape to organize our story map in a way. We will decide what are our must-haves. For example, tickets that are 25, 20, and 60 points when it comes to priority. Or you can decide the scale you wish based on the lowest and the highest number for priority. Should have could be between 10 and 15. Release 3 could be between 5 and 9, and one have is between 1 and 4. So what I want you to do is to organize it this way. So leave some space in between so that we can add this tape. And those will be our releases. So this was the user story mapping technique. So the next thing, so this is where the workshop ends. But the next thing that I would do on a real project is, now we focus on the must-haves. And even the MVP, we can break down to smaller releases, or now we have the priorities, we know what our product backlog is, and we focus on sprint plannings, etc. What's also useful is to give some rough estimates about how long the MVP will take so that product owner can do the planning with the customers, etc. But if we are doing Kanban, for example, we take the MVP tickets and we add it to Kanban board with respect to priorities. The other releases stay in the backlog and wait for actually the time when we can release them. Okay?
These are the features, right? We still have to go to a user story level.
These are.
They have the multiple user stories.
Now you can break down some of. Once you start working in sprints, when you do sprint plannings, etc., you will see whether it's necessary to break it down to more user stories or not. But these can be user stories as well. It depends on how actually complex they are. Okay. Any questions? Was this useful?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much.